In this video, I'm going to show you a simple compression trick that turns any compressor into a one dial compressor. So if you're new to compression, this is a really easy way to get many of the benefits of using a compressor by setting it up so that you can control it with just one single control. So it's really simple and easy to apply. Hey, Rob here from Musician on a Mission, and quick caveat before I dive into this. This is really a tip for beginners. If you've already wrapped your head around compression and you've got used to using all the different controls, the ratio, the attack time, release time, makeup gain, etc., then this isn't really going to apply to you. But if you're new to compression and you haven't been using it long and you're still trying to wrap your head around how it works, and if you find that when you're mixing, you're kind of fumbling around with the different controls, not really sure what each one is doing, or if you've never even used compression before and this is the first time you're giving it a try, then this video is for you. So let's start by having a listen to the track we're going to be working on. This is actually a track that was sent to me by a student of mine. Their name is Ayana Jacobs. Definitely recommend you go and check this out.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the heat when we walk by.
So I'm going to work on this vocal here. I've actually got the vocal split into different channels because there's different stuff going on. So this is purely this one verse. I'm kind of going through and mixing these in turn. I've done pretty much everything else. So there's already some stuff going on. I've got some volume automation using Wave's Vocal Rider, which just turns up the volume, turns it down for different notes. Then I've got a limiter that's actually catching some of the louder notes. And finally, I've got kind of some EQ, saturation, other stuff. I'm not going to go into that here. All we're going to do is add a compressor, and I'm actually going to do it right at the end here, just before the de-esser. So I'm going to use the stock Logic compressor. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because the vocal sounds good and it's nice and consistent, but I want to give it a bit of a compressed sound. And what a compressor will do is actually kind of level out the dynamics, i.e. the volume, at different points. So it will kind of turn down the louder words, turn up the quieter words. But at the same time, on a smaller scale, it's going to, within the words themselves, kind of level things out and also make the vocal sound a bit punchier, like it's being delivered with a bit more kind of aggression and excitement. So it does lots of really nice things. Now, if you've never opened a compressor before, if you're new to compression, it can be really overwhelming. So here's what you can do instead. This is kind of like a template that will work on pretty much anything and get you a lot of the benefits of compression, but it is going to take some setting up, and then you could actually save it as a template yourself. So we're going to start by setting the attack time to 10 milliseconds. Then we're going to set the release time to 100 milliseconds. Now, if your DAW has an auto release, I'd recommend you use that instead. So in Logic, I can just leave this engaged. Otherwise, set it to 100 like that. Knee, we're then going to set to 0. If you have that control, if you don't worry about it. Finally, we're going to turn off auto gain. If you have any kind of automatic gain compensation in your compressor, make sure you turn that off. We're going to leave the ratio at 2:1 or change it to 2:1 if you don't already have that set up in that way. And now that we've done that, we've set up these controls, and we could actually save this as a preset. So I could save as one knob compressor. Now that we've set that up in that way, and if you have any other controls, just don't worry about them. The only control we need to use to apply compression is this one, threshold. Now, we are going to have to change the volume coming out of it after we've done that, but that's not really a compressor control. That's more something we do on pretty much any plugin. Even kind of like EQ, sometimes you have to adjust the gain coming out of it. So we still do have to adjust the makeup gain or the output. You could do it output gain, same thing. But in terms of actually applying compression, we only use this one control now. So we've basically kind of set controls that will work for a lot of stuff, and now we just use the threshold. So I'm going to show you this in action. We're going to start at 0, and I'm just going to bring this down, and I'm going to listen until it starts to sound kind of a bit compressed, it starts to sound a bit quieter, or it starts to sound kind of like weird and over compressed, and that's where I know I've gone too far, and then I can kind of like back it off.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the heat when we walk by.
So already it's got a bit quieter. So this is where, as we do apply compression, we're going to have to kind of add some output gain as well. That's what makeup gain, or it might just be called gain, or you could even just do it here. We're going to have to do that as we go as well.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the heat when we walk by. We ain't here for drama, keep the hands straight up, we don't want you being so.
So that's starting to sound a bit kind of jittery. Generally, on any source, if you're kind of under 5 dB of gain reduction, which is what's being shown here, this is just showing how much compression is actually being applied. If we keep it like around -5 or below, it's never going to ruin something. Of course, once you know what you're doing, you can use 10, 20, 50 dB of gain reduction if you want to. But when you start out, try and kind of keep it subtle just till you get used to what a compressor does. And if you want to play it safe, just stay below or above. It kind of looks like it's above, but it's actually below in terms of gain reduction at this -5 point.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the heat when we walk by. We ain't here for drama.
So now we have that compressed sound, and it's also kind of leveling out the dynamics. Certain notes are getting compressed more, so that means we just have a more consistent volume. So now the vocal is going to be easier to set the level in the mix. It's just going to kind of float above the mix and sit on top at all times instead of getting buried on certain words. So now what we need to do, we use that one control to dictate the amount of compression. We just need to make sure that the volume is the same bypassed as it is engaged, because we don't want to be turning up or turning down the source with the compressor. And it's never going to be perfect because we have kind of like played around with the internal dynamics of the vocal, but we can just kind of get a rough ballpark so that when we do a bypass comparison, we flick it on and off. It's not changing in volume, which is going to influence our decision.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the heat when we walk by. We ain't here for drama, keep your hands to yourself, we don't want you.
So that sounds pretty similar volume. Let's actually check in solo as well, which you can do if you need to.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better...
Cool, so it's sounding pretty similar in volume, and now I'm just going to do some kind of final adjustments. It's sounding a bit too compressed to me, so I might just tweak this a little bit more.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the heat when we walk by. We ain't here for drama, keep your hands to yourself, we don't want you being so cute.
And I just want to show you now really clearly what the compressor is actually doing, because I already have kind of some limiting on it and some other stuff going on. So let's see how it sounds with just compression alone. So I'm going to bypass everything else. Let's just listen to what the compressor is doing. So this is without.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive.
And with.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn.
So now I'm going to flick back and forth. When this is blue, it's engaged, and we're hearing it with compression.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the heat when we walk by. We ain't here for drama, keep your hands to yourself, we don't want you being so cute, looking so fine. We ain't getting pressed tonight.
So you can focus on different things when you're trying to hear what a compressor does. Most of all, you can just hear how now certain notes are quieter. So the loud notes are getting turned down more. So we just have a more consistent volume. But it's also kind of making the vocal sound a bit more aggressive. And the more compression we apply, the more aggressive it's going to sound.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the... Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive.
It just sounds kind of dull and a bit more boring without compression. When we bring that compressor in, it sounds a bit more exciting. It just sounds like they're kind of delivering the performance with more energy. So let's bring everything else on again. And because I had some limiting before it, what we'll notice now is that the compressor is not going to be kind of bouncing around as much.
Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know when we arrive. All the heads turn, and you better learn, feel the heat when we walk by. Look at us, look at us, look at us, better... Look at us, look at us, look at us, better know.
Cool, and there we go. So you can do this on any source. It's going to just kind of level out the dynamics more than anything. If you want to start really playing around with the amount of punch and thickness, that's where you do want to start tweaking your attack time and getting to know that control. And I still highly recommend you learn what each of these controls does. I have a video on that I'll link to in the description as well. And before you move on to anything else, it's probably worth just understanding what ratio does, because that's going to again dictate how much compression is being applied. But if you're very new to this, or you're just kind of ever unsure, you can use these settings and then you just use this one control as kind of like an amount of compression control. So we bring it down, more compression, up, less compression, and that's it. And you're going to get the benefits of compression, where it's going to level out the dynamics. It's going to make it sound a bit kind of punchier and more exciting with just that one control. Then learn what these other ones do so that you can kind of actually fine tune. And when you have different intentions, or you're working on like a snare and you want to really kind of compress the transient, or if you're working with a pop vocal and you want it to sound really loud and in your face, you can try using a faster attack time. But again, we're kind of going more complex here. So if you just want to keep it really simple, make sure you use those settings, and then it's just one dial. Now, to help you actually move forward from this point and learn those different controls, I have a compression cheat sheet that you can use as well. And as you go through, you can implement kind of this technique and then set some time aside to start playing around with the other dials as well. The cheat sheet is going to help you through that process, and you can constantly refer to it to find out kind of what each of these controls does. And it's going to help you to really understand how these influence the sound and influence the way that the compressor works. So it's completely free. Just head to the link on screen now or in the description to get access to that, and I'm sure you'll love it. So that's all for today. If you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and remember, create regardless.